Hello YouTube, this is Braden with Midwest Websites, your solution for business website design and search engine optimization. Has your website gone down because a hacker has destroyed your data? Take a look at our variety of website security options and cleanup options to get your website up and running again as quickly as possible. Link in the description below. Now, today we're going to be talking about what to do if your website has been hacked and you've lost all access to your WordPress admin dashboard. This can be particularly devastating if someone has gained control of your dashboard and is using it to put up spam or junk links or change your work around so that it looks less credible, or if you've got a developer who's gone rogue, who's trying to delete everything they've done. There are a variety of situations that can come up that would cause this to be a problem. So today we're going to go over how to get back into your website and take care of any unwanted users at the same time as well. Fortunately, most hosting platforms that you set WordPress up on, other than some exceptions like WordPress.com, give you direct access to your database, which you will need in order to go ahead and follow these instructions. I've got example.midwestwebsites.com set up on a shared cPanel with GoDaddy. As you can see here, it's going to look a little different than a traditional cPanel layout, but it's got all the same buttons and a few extras that we're going to need to go in and work with things today. Our first step is going to be to go into our cPanel and get into phpMyAdmin, where our database is stored. Now, if you have more than one database, you may want to detour over to your file manager quickly, and then go in and right-click on wp-config.php and go into the code editor, just so that you can take a look at which database you're going to be working with here. In this case, we're going to be working with this database up here. So that's going to be what we're going to be looking at. We'll go ahead and just copy that into our notepad just for future reference. Jumping back over to cPanel, we're going to go into phpMyAdmin, and we're going to wait for it to load up here. Once it does, we'll be able to see the databases that are set up on the server. There's the database that we found in wp-config, so we know that we're working in the right one. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the wp_users section. Now, as you can see here, we've got 3 users that are set up in the website. If you want to delete users, you can do so on this page using the delete button. Generally speaking, you're only going to want to delete users that you know don't have any content associated with your website, just to make sure you don't cause any damage to the content that you already had put together. If you need to create a new user so that you can get back in, our first step is going to be to go up to the top of the page here and click on the Insert button. Now, once we do that, we're going to need to fill in most of the information on this screen. So we're going to need to give our user an ID number. We'll give them the ID number of 12. We're going to need to create our user login, so we'll go with test user 3. We're going to come up with our password. Please use a password that is more secure than the one that I'm typing in here. Please make sure also to encrypt it with MD5 encryption in this column to the left for function. For the nice name, we're going to need to create a name for that as well. We'll call it new user 3. Please make sure it is different from the user login, just so that a clever hacker or someone who's trying to take a look at your website doesn't have an easy way to guess what your username is to log back in. We'll set up an email address for this user so that they can recover credentials. We'll do test3@midwestwebsites.com for ours. Just make sure that the email address that you're putting in here is one that you have access to and is not one that is affiliated with your other users. We don't need to worry about the user URL. You can choose to pick today's date for the registration date if you want to just make a note of when this user was registered for your database. Don't worry about the activation key or the user status. Those are fine as they are. And for the display name, you can use a third name, or you can use the same one that you've set up for your user nice name. So we'll just do that, new user 3. The second section down here is just the same thing if you want to create a second user at the same time. We don't, so we're just going to check the box to ignore this second section and click the Go button to create our user. The query has been run in the database, and when we go back to WP users, we'll see test user 3 up here with ID number 12. So now that we've got our new user set up, let's go ahead and go over to the WP_user meta. And there isn't going to be anything set up for this new user in user meta. It's completely devoid of our ID 12 here because we did not create it in WordPress. So we're going to need to insert a row here so that we can use that new user to get in. So we're going to use the insert button again. We're going to leave the UMeta ID blank. For our user ID, we're going to set it to 12 to match what we put in when we created our user. For the meta key, we need to choose WP_capabilities. Please note that if the database prefix to the left here is different, say yours is named WC_user meta, then you'll need to make sure that that prefix matches ahead of capabilities here. So you would put WC_capabilities, just as an example. Most WordPress databases just default to the prefix WP_, so that's what we're going to be using here. And then for the meta value, we need to put in the permission level. If you're trying to get back into your website, you should always use administrator permissions, which can either be coded like this, where I've got highlighted in my notepad, or like this in this lower section of my notepad. They're basically two different ways of saying the same thing. Either should work for getting you back into the database. So we're going to go ahead and copy what we've got highlighted. We're going to paste it in, make sure that we don't have any extra spaces at the beginning or end. And then we're going to scroll down here. We're going to ignore this second section. Like before, it's a duplicate if you want to put two tables in at once. And we'll hit the Go button to save our change. Now, a lot of guides are also going to recommend that you do this a second time for WP_user level and having the value be set to 10. Given that WordPress has deprecated this feature since version 3, which was released many years ago, in most cases you do not actually need to do this. If your site is particularly old, or if you're using particularly old tools that would rely on the WP user level, then what you would do is you would just go back to user meta, go back to insert, do user ID 12 again, copy in the user level, and then set the value to 10 for full permissions. Again, this is not strictly required in most cases, but if for whatever reason you're still using an older tool or an older version of WordPress, then please make sure to complete this step as well. Now that that's done, we should be able to go over to our login page for WordPress, and we should be able to log in using our new user. So we're going to put in our username and password, and we're logged in. Now from here, you're going to want to go over to the Users tab on the left-hand side, and you're going to want to go in and edit any users that aren't yours to give them either the lowest level of permissions or take away their role for the site altogether, or go in and delete the users that you don't recognize as well. Use caution before you do this, back up your website before you do this, just in case that user is tied to important content on your website. After you've done this, you will want to go into your user profile for the user you just created, and you're going to want to go in and change the options around that are in here to what you're going to want when you're working with the website, when you're going in and making changes or editing it. Once you've done that, you'll update your profile, which should save your changes, and will actually update your user to have the features that a user would normally have when you created it in WordPress. As you can see, I don't have a nickname here, so I do need to go ahead and get that put in here as well. So we'll just do that real quick, which is why it didn't save. And now our profile's been updated. So if we go back to the user meta table now, we should have a few other entries for this specific user setup that are tied in with the other options for our preferences for this user. As you can see, it's filled all of these in here now. Not doing this will actually leave you with a few issues as you're going in to edit posts. You'll lose your rich editing tool, for example, so you're just going to be writing in HTML code basically if you were going in to edit posts, which is why it's important to go in and make this change after you've gone in and cleaned up unnecessary users and removed permissions from those who shouldn't have them. And that covers how to create new users in your WordPress database. Thanks as always for watching and for your support. If this video has been of help to you, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Definitely helps the channel, definitely helps us get this information out to those who need it. And have a great rest of the day.